Billionaire drives a dented, 15-year-old Volvo. His employee, a middle manager, just leased a brand new BMW. Which one understands wealth? The answer reveals everything. I eat cook, true wealth doesn't roar, it whispers. While the world screams to be seen, the elites play a game of strategic silence. They operate on a different frequency entirely. To understand why, we must dissect the operating system that keeps them there. Behavior number 1, the architecture of privacy. In a digital age defined by oversharing, we see two distinct survival strategies. For the aspiring middle class, visibility is not vanity, it is a calculated economic necessity. In the modern attention economy, if you are not seen, you do not exist. The professional updating LinkedIn, the influencer broadcasting their vacation, the entrepreneur signaling success, they are acting rationally. They are hunting. They need to be seen to get hired. They need to be loud to find the tribe. They trade privacy for access. But watch the established mind. They view visibility as a liability. To old money, privacy is the ultimate luxury because it is the one thing that cannot be bought back once it is sold. But deeper than luxury, it is threat model. They understand the scarcity principle applied to the self. The more available you are, the less valuable your presence becomes. Information is ammunition, so they don't hand out bullets. Privacy is security architecture. When you are publicly wealthy, you become a target for litigation, for solicitation, for social engineering. Every public post is a data point for a competitor. Every display of wealth is an invitation for a lawsuit. The middle class can afford to be seen because, strategically, they have more to gain from connection than they have to lose from exposure. Old money has everything to lose. Picture the newly promoted executive versus the third-generation heir. The executive buys the upgraded home in the better neighbor. He parks the luxury car in the driveway. He joins the club. He is not being foolish. He is solidifying his status in rooms he has just entered. He is proving he belongs. Now look at the heir. He buys the land surrounding his home not to develop, but to create a buffer of silence. He drives a car that merges into the grey blur of traffic. He does not geotag. This is strategic opacity. From Mediterranean villages to Silicon Valley boardrooms, the principle is the same. Visibility invites attack. The generational mind knows that the best way to avoid the destructive gaze of the crowd is to simply remain unseen. But here is the cost, and it is steep, undegaught. While the middle class is exhausted by the performance of visibility, the elite risk a dangerous isolation. The fortress that keeps the world out also keeps reality out. By insulating themselves from public scrutiny, old money families often drift into an echo chamber. They lose touch with the cultural shifts that eventually threaten their standing. Privacy preserves the self, but it calcifies the mind. Behavior number 2, the rejection of novelty. Once you stop performing for an audience, you stop caring about the props. This leads to the second behavior, the rejection of novelty. We live in a consumer economy built on planned obsolescence. Things are designed to break. The middle class is trapped on the hedonic treadmill, chasing new purchases to signal relevance. Again, this is often a rational career move. Looking outdated can signal professional stagnation. If you work in tech, you need the new phone. If you work in fashion, you need the new cut. But the old money mindset operates on a different timeline. They trust the Lindy effect, the idea that if something has lasted 50 years, it will likely last 50 more. This is why you walk into an estate and see a cracked leather armchair, a frayed rug, coat that has been relined 3 times. To the untrained eye, this looks like frugality. It isn't. It's a relationship with durability. A new object has no soul, no history, no proof it can survive the storm. An old object has stood the test. It has become a trusted companion rather than a disposable commodity. Old money prefers aged objects because they signal continuity, the highest value of the elite. A new chair signals purchasing power. An old chair signals staying power. While the heir keeps his 50-year-old chair, that BMW neighbor is upgrading to this year's model. Again, because for him, the object is a signal of current liquidity. For the heir, the object is a signal of endurance. There is a specific comfort in surrounding oneself with things that have endured. It subconsciously reinforces the idea that your lineage will endure. The middle class signals status by saying, I can afford the latest thing. The elite signal says, I am confident enough to not care about the latest thing. But don't mistake this for an escape from the treadmill. The elite are simply on a different one. While the middle class chases new objects, old money chases legacy preservation. This too is insatiable. The anxiety of keeping up with the Joneses is replaced by the anxiety of not failing the ancestors. And here is where the strategy failed. The refusal to adopt new things often extends to ideas. This explains why old money families have lost market share in every major technological transition, from railroads to software. Their focus on durability makes them slow to spot paradigm shift. The Rockefellers dominated oil, the Waltons dominated retail, but no old money family dominated the internet. These behaviors preserve wealth, but they rarely create the next wave of it. So, behavior number 3, the absence of urgency. If you don't care about what's new, you experience time differently. This is the third and perhaps most visible distinction, the absence of urgency. Watch the middle class. They operate on scarcity time. The opportunity is fleeting. The door is closing. Move now or lose forever. This creates a vibration of anxiety, a subtle tremor. And they are right. For the aspiring class, urgency is not a flaw. It's a survival mechanism. If they miss the bus, there is no chauffeur coming. Their panic is a rational response to a lack of a safety net. Old money operates on abundance abundance time. The deal falls through, another will appear in a decade. The market crashes. We wait. There is no rush because the foundation is secure. You see this in conversation. The aspiring individual speaks quickly. They front-load their sentences with information, fighting for airtime, trying to prove their competence before they get cut off. They listen to respond. Now watch the established mind. They speak slower. They pause. They are comfortable with silence. They do not fear being interrupted because subconsciously they know the room will wait. This is the power dynamic of the pause. When you rush, you are reacting to the world. When you take your time, you are forcing the world to sync with your pace. The middle class rushes to meet the deadline. The elite mindset sets the timeline. When you rush, your brain floods with cortisol. Logic shuts down. You stop thinking. You just react. The pause isn't just power, it's survival. By refusing to rush, the established mind keeps its cognitive faculties intact. They avoid the costly mistakes that come from panic. But let's be real about the source of this power. It is unclear whether old money chooses this patience or simply possesses it because they have never experienced the trauma of scarcity. A third-generation heir moves slowly, not because they have mastered Zen discipline, but because they have never felt the visceral threat of a missed paycheck. This lack of urgency can slide into complacency. The hungry sprinter often overtakes the relaxed walker because they have to. The danger for old money is that they walk so slowly they eventually stand still. Behavior number 4, stewardship over ownership. Might you see, this different relationship with time leads to a profound psychological shift. Stewardship over ownership. The middle class is obsessed with ownership. This is mine, I bought it. Possession provides identity. The house, the car, the boat. These are extensions of the self. If these things are lost, a part of the self is lost. This attachment creates fragility. The old money mindset shifts. They recognize themselves as temporary custodian, nothing more. Whether it is a family business, a piece of land, or a collection of art, the psychology is, I did not create this, and I will not be the last to hold it. My job is to not ruin it. The ego is removed from the equation. The individual becomes secondary to the lineage. This is the hardest behavior to emulate because it requires you to accept your own irrelevance. You are not the main character of the movie. You are just a producer ensuring the franchise continues. The middle class eats the seed corn because they are hungry today. They often have no choice. The steward goes hungry today so the seed corn can be planted for a grandchild they will never meet. The middle class plays for their lifetime. The steward plays for centuries. When you view yourself as a steward, you make different decisions. You don't sell the asset for a quick cash infusion. You don't take massive risks. You become risk averse. You prioritize survival over growth. This is why you see generational wealth tied up in trust. It is a system designed to protect the money from the individual. It admits a hard truth. The individual is weak, emotional, and prone to error. The system, the stewardship, is strong. But the cost is heavy. The steward becomes a prisoner. Imagine the heir who wants to be a painter, but the family business needs him. The estate needs him. The trust needs him. So he sits in the boardroom sketching in the margins, managing an empire he never wanted. The middle class can quit their job. The steward can't. There's a loneliness to that, a kind of invisible cage that no amount of money can unlock. Behavior number 5, emotional detachment from money. Stewardship is impossible without the 5th behavior, emotional detachment. For the middle class, money is raw emotion. It is survival, safety, love, status. When the market crashes, there is visceral fear. It keeps them awake at night because their actual livelihood is at stake. When a bonus comes in, there is euphoria. Their mood follows the market. Up when it's up, down when it's down. Their happiness is a stock chart. They say, consider the recession. When the market bleeds, the BMW neighbor panic sells. He stops the hurting. He is driven by the fear of losing what little he has. The billionaire in the Volvo, he's buying. He views a recession not as a tragedy, but as a sale. He has the capital, and more importantly, the emotional distance to buy when there is blood in the streets. He doesn't get angry, he gets curious. This detachment is the ultimate weapon. In any transaction, the person who needs the deal the least always wins, because the middle-class negotiator is emotionally attached to the outcome, needing the raise, needing the sale. They signal desperation. They telegraph their position. They negotiate for survival. I'm a fight. The detached mind can walk away, and the willingness to walk away is the only real power in the room. For the old money archetype, money is plumbing. You don't cry when the water runs. You don't dance when the toilet flushes. It just works. And when it breaks, you call someone to fix it. No emotion, just maintenance. But again, a warning. Emotional detachment from money can bleed into emotional detachment from life. If you treat everything as a resource to be managed, you risk becoming cold, transactional, unable to feel the highs and lows that make life human. The middle class feels the pain of loss more acutely, but they also feel the joy of the win more deeply. The established elite often live in a constant, flat, emotional plateau. Behavior number 6, the quality of social capital. This detachment extends to people, and this is where the dynamic gets ruthless. Sociologists distinguish between two types of social capital, bridging and bonding. The middle class relies on bridging capital. This is the ability to connect with people from different groups and industry. Their networking is broad. They ask, what do you do? Because they need to bridge the gap between where they are and where they want to be. This is a rational strategy for mobility. They need loose connections to find new doors. Old money relies on bonding capital. Their circles are small, the walls are high. The currency is trust, not utility. They do not network, they bond. Imagine a dinner party. The aspiring professional asks, so what do you do? In elite circles, the heir leaves the room. That That question is considered tacky, transactional. It implies you are looking for a deal. The table goes quiet. Someone changes the subject to last summer in the Hampton. The person who asked isn't corrected. They're simply forgotten. By dessert, they realize no one is speaking to them. The exile happened without a word. The right question? Who are your people? Or where do you summer? They are scanning for shared values and shared history. The psychology is risk management. A person with a shared history has something to lose by betraying. Reputational suicide within the tribe. A stranger does not. The middle class treats relationships like assets to be acquired. The elite treats relationships like fortifications to be maintained. They understand that in a crisis, 1,000 LinkedIn connections are useless, but 3 friends who understand the code of silence are priceless. The cost here is insularity. The steward's world creates an echo chamber. By only trusting those inside the circle, they miss the warnings coming from outside. The elite are safe within their fortification, but they are often out of touch with reality. Behavior number 7, tolerance for boredom. But here's the thing about those small, tight circles and silent fortifications. They're boring, deeply, relentlessly boring. And that's the point, which brings us to the final behavior, the one that makes compounding possible. The tolerance for boredom. We live in an entertainment culture. The middle class is terrified of boredom. If there is a free moment, the phone comes out. If there is a quiet evening, the streaming service goes on. Stimulation is the drug. But wealth preservation is incredibly boring. Reading dense documents, waiting decades for compound interest, the 10th conversation with the lawyer, sitting in meetings where nothing exciting. The get-rich-quick mentality is driven by a need for excitement. The casino is exciting. Day trading is exciting. A trust fund is tedious. The established mind has a high tolerance for this tedium. They do not need their investments to entertain them. They compartmentalize. They get adrenaline from hobbies, skiing, sailing, hunting, riding, never from the portfolio. The middle class often blows up their financial future because they get bored. They sell the boring index fund to buy the hot crypto coin because they want to feel something. They mistake movement for progress. This extends to the children. Middle class parenting often revolves around constant entertainment, tablets, activities, the fear of the child ever being bored. The elite mindset views boredom as a necessary teaching tool. It is in the silence of boredom that a child learns self-regulation. It is in the absence of screens that the mind learns to think sequentially. The ability to sit in a room, do nothing, and let time do the heavy lifting is a superpower. It is the discipline of the sniper versus the machine gun. One requires patience and stillness. The other is just noise. Mate, remember our billionaire in the Volvo. He isn't driving it because he can't afford better. He's driving it because he's already won. His neighbour in the BMW, still paying off that lease. When you look at these 7 behaviours, privacy, rejection of novelty, absence of urgency, stewardship, detachment, bonding, and boredom, you see the pattern. It is not the frequency of the engine revving. That is the middle class signalling strategically to be seen, fueled by the rational anxiety of building a life from scratch. It is the lower, steadier hum of someone who has already arrived. I'd say, now these behaviours won't make you wealthy. That's not how this works. You can't cosplay into generational wealth. You cannot prioritise legacy when you are struggling to pay rent. This isn't just mindset, it is infrastructure. Dented, but understanding this psychology changes the game. Even if you don't have the capital of the elite, you can stop confusing visibility with value. You can recognise that excitement isn't progress. The point is this, you now understand why they're silent when you expect them to speak, why they keep old things when you expect them to upgrade, why they pause when you expect them to rush. You can see the pattern, and once you see them, you can't unsee them. That changes how you move, not your bank account, but how you read power. The test is simple. Next time you feel the urge to post, to prove, to rush, stop. In that pause, you aren't being silent. You're choosing a different frequency. At Walks, the ultimate status symbol isn't a logo. It isn't a car. It is the ability to be unaffected, to stand still when the world demands you run. Okay, that is the signal. Everything else, just noise. And that Volvo, still running, 50 more years.